Rogue One, A Star Wars Story 2016 is a film based in the Star Wars universe, directed by Gareth Edwards, and the cinematography was done by Greg Fraser. This scene takes place at the end of the movie, just as the rebels have received the plans for the Death Star. As they are trying to escape, they are stopped by Darth Vader. The film was shot on a custom-built Arri Alexa 65 camera because of the image quality, as well as the look you can get closely resembles the look of the original trilogy. The mise-en-scene for this scene consists of characters easily recognisable in the Star Wars universe, such as the Rebel Troopers and Darth Vader. This scene has to match with what happens in the first Star Wars film, A New Hope, 1977, as this film ends as that film begins. The set design is very confined, with a window at the end of the hallway, so they're able to see and communicate with their comrades the other side, so the plot for this scene is able to work. This window also shows the desperation the soldier has on his face and the realisation of his inevitable death. There are also dials and switches on the wall which illuminate. This adds some interest to the look of the shot, filling some of the darker areas. The colour palette for the film is gold, red, grey, brown and black. All of these colours are quite muted and dull, apart from the gold and the red. This is meant to represent the two different sides of the Force. In the other Star Wars films, normally red and blue are their two primary colours. However, this film is a side story, which I believe is the reason for the change. This first shot is a slow, handheld backwards tracking shot with a very subtle descend. It has a very shallow depth of field which is focused on the terrified look on the soldier's face. They've probably used something like a 50mm lens in this shot. Using a compressed lens, it makes it seem more realistic and impressionistic, as things go out of focus and fall off faster. It also makes the background seem closer to the subjects, which feeds into the trap theme.
I really like the idea of them all being trapped, and that Vader's going to kill every single one of them, and that potentially the only thing that can escape is, you know, the card that Princess Leia gives to R2-D2.
The lighting in this shot is very low key and soft. The soldiers have been lit from underneath, which creates quite a spooky and eerie effect. They have been lit with a warm, soft light matching the movie's colour palette, which relates them to the light side of the Force. There are a couple of practical lights within the background of the scene, which just adds some more interest in the frame. The sound within this shot is purely diegetic sound, which originates from outside the shot. The sound is of creakings from the ship, which suggests that something powerful is coming. The absence of non-diegetic sound builds suspense as to what is going to emerge from the darkened hallway. The next shot is a long, slow, handheld tracking shot with a slight descend. This adds more of a power status to Vader, with him towering above the camera. Again, they have probably used something like a 50mm in this shot to make Vader appear closer to the soldiers than he actually is. The lighting within this shot is the same as the last shot until the moment Darth Vader turns on his lightsaber. As an audience, we know whenever the lightsaber is drawn, fighting is going to take place.
Greg, the DOP, actually had Vader hold a real lightsaber, so in the sense that it would, when you turn it on, it would actually light up. And the problem was, if when you turn that on, you can't see Vader, you just see the lightsaber. So we put a light behind Vader and smoked up the background so that as it was synchronized, as the lightsaber turns on, the background illuminates and you see the silhouette, because it feels like the most iconic thing about Vader is that silhouette.
They also use practical smoke as if the ship was damaged, which gives a reason for the smoke to be there. The smoke makes the light solid, which helps illuminate the background and help show Vader. As they bring up the lights, it works in conjunction with the camera angles, implying an emphasis of strength and power towards Vader, portraying dominance within the shot, illustrating he's an alpha. The sound in this shot continues from the previous, but then you hear footsteps and the iconic heavy breathing of Vader, which reveals his presence. The non-diegetic sound of the music then cuts in, which again emphasizes Vader's presence. This juxtaposition between silence and noise really adds an emphasis to this scene, as the Star Wars universe is never normally quiet. The camera then slowly tracks in at a low height to emphasize Vader dwarfing them and to reveal the terrified facial expression of the soldier. They're probably still on a 50mm here to keep all of the shots matching, as well as the realistic style. There is a red soft fill light cast over the faces of the soldiers. This is meant to emphasize Vader's lightsaber and could also represent the soldiers being taken over by the dark side. The color red also signifies blood and death, which is foreshadowing what is about to happen. There are some digitally added lights as the blasters fire, which causes an anamorphic style lens flare. The music in this shot crescendos, breaking the tension as they... It is like the music is taking an intake and breath in order to cope with the action which is about to take place. They then cut to a wide showing the hallway from Vader's perspective and what he is up against. There's a red soft fill light amplifying the light from the lightsaber, as well as a warm backlight originating from the hallway behind the door. This illuminates a small crack in the door, which emphasizes their only chance of freedom and the only thing able to fit through the door are the Death Star plans, which again foreshadowing what is about to happen. This contrast between the two different lighting colors again represents the two different sides of the Force. They have also added some digitally cast lights which light up the walls as the blasters are shot. In order to create this effect, they probably used strobe lights, then added the red glow in from the blasters afterwards. As Vader walks down the hall, it cuts between the static shot of the soldiers and the tracking shot as Vader walks down the hall. It gives the impression of Vader closing in on them and there is nothing which can stop him. He's an unstoppable force. The diegetic sound of the blasters firing and the soldiers screaming as they are killed. This is then mixed in with the non-diegetic sound of the music, which is very chaotic and loud, which just adds more chaos to the scene. In this over-the-shoulder shot, they probably used something like a 75mm to get a tight close-up of the soldiers' faces and a very shallow depth of field. This also changes the perspective, bringing the soldiers closer together, implying that they are closer to escaping. They have also muffled the dialogue from the soldiers the other side of the door, which gives the impression to the audience that they're in the scene, hearing what the soldiers are hearing. In comparison to the next over-the-shoulder shot of Vader, it shows how tall he is compared to the soldiers, implying his dominance. As he moves forward, the soldiers move back. Even though Vader is heavily outnumbered, there is nothing they can do to stop him.